Greetings again, everyone, to the continuation of our study and the time to prepare. Our subject this time is an invitation to country living. And I want you to know how wide, extensive this invitation really is, not only within our church, but outside the church and people in other denominations. It is important and that we take up this idea of leaving the cities, as the messenger has said, out of the cities is my message for our people. The time has come for our people to be out of the cities. But other people have approached it from a different angle. I know many of you, if you're thinking about making a move out of the cities into the country, it's a little bit, well, what shall we say? It's a little bit hard to swallow, maybe, or a little bit discouraging to see all that you have to do. It affects your job, your money, your debt, your mortgages, everything. For it is best that we be out of debt as soon as possible. We might use an investment in a piece of country property and then sell it, and we can become clear in debt as an investment if we do so wisely. But many of non-religious experts that used to live on Wall Street in Manhattan, the kind of the economic nerve center of our country, and they're experts and analysts in economics, and they sit down and they look at the graphs that they use to give people counsel in regard to their financial portfolios, to enhance them or caution them. They extend some of these graphs on out, and they discovered that Manhattan may not be the place to live. And I have some documents here that I would like to share with you. They have decided to move to a more rural location. These people who analyze money trends and are highly educated, they are saying Green Acres is the place to be. And one of them wrote an article here that I hold up for you. Green Acres is the place to be, and it's stories of people who made the change from Manhattan to Idaho to Oregon to Missouri, and they do all their work from remote locations in counseling people. This is from the Wall Street Journal, December 2nd, 2009. These people, many of them don't believe in God or have any religious inclinations at all. They're just looking at what they feel like is the trends in these graphs to lead people to leave the city and move into the country. A second issue in the Wall Street Journal, Green Acres is the place to be, written by a different author, is also stories of how people moving out of the cities into the country. A third example of that is entitled From Versace to Chainsaws. Now Versace, you know, is a fashion designer, very high-end, and this particular lady was a salesman for Versace in downtown Manhattan, and she decided that she needed to get out and she put down Versace and high fashion designs and picked up a chainsaw in the country. That's quite a change. This is December 5, 2009, from the Wall Street Journal. Finally, another reason that some of these people picked up on was dirty air. Dirty air kills 7 million people a year, according to the World Health Organization. Different kinds of different diseases in the air indicate to many people that they need to locate themselves in the country. Finally, we find that in these papers there is a physiological impact, a stress, as it were, that does physical damage to our body by being constantly under urban stress through commuting, through job pressures, and riding public transit, and so forth. Urban stress changes the brain, and the scan shows. So all of these different reasons the world is using to move out of the cities into the country. We have a book entitled Country in My Heart, and it's an example of stories, about 18 stories of people who move from the cities into the country and how they overcome various problems, such as, well, they didn't have any money, they were in debt, and they didn't have any job. And they, in one case, in one of the stories in our book, Country in My Heart, the family overcome all three of those problems and found a place. God has said in Medical Ministry, page 310, God will help His people find such homes outside the cities. That's a promise from God. That's a check written by Jesus and signed by Him that says, if you take up the thought of moving from the city into the country, where you have adequate land for wood to heat your house, land for growing a garden, and water that you don't pay a water bill for, He will help you find such place outside the cities. God's plan is not for His people to become hermits. That is, leave the cities, move into the country, stay there, hoard, guard it with an AK-47, dress in camouflage. But His plan is for us to move into the country, form an outpost that we can come back into the cities and do ministry work of all kinds. Our outpost, for instance, is in northern British Columbia. It's about 1,000 miles due north of here, where we live, and yet we're in various cities all over the country, and we go back to our outpost. So it is hard for us to go. It's hard for it to leave the outpost because you enjoy it so much. But we are driven, as was one of the ancient patriarchs, Enoch. He, Enoch, did not become a hermit, shutting himself entirely from the world, but we are to work the cities from outposts. Evangelism, page 77. In selecting land, look for water, wood, and land, and a healthy climate. 1 MR 327. So the counsel has been given when Sister White was looking for land for Avondale College. She counseled the brethren, selecting land, look for a place with water, wood, and a healthy climate. So there you have land, wood, water, and a healthy climate, that is, clean air. Some of the Bible texts that we have been challenged to find in support of country living. The first one here is found in Second Chronicles 7:14. And I want to make the tie-in that moving to the country is a spiritual call. It is not a call just for safety. It is not a call just to do what we'd like to do. It's not just a call to make a safer place for our children. But it's a call to get near to God. Listen to this. 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall, number 1, humble themselves. Number 2, pray. Number 3, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. Let me just make a little commentary on this verse. For instance, seek my face is an old English expression that leads us to get really close to God. Turn from our wicked ways, I think we all understand that, and separate from the world. Separate in practice. But we need to mingle as Jesus counseled us to do in order to win souls. Pray, humble ourselves. Now there's a real tall order. And when it gets to our spiritual experience, to bring ourselves in a humbling position, to pray and seek my face. Turn from your wicked ways. Leave the world behind. Then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and heal their land. So in order to be called to country living, and we begin using our garden, we begin using our wood, Jesus says, if you will come to me and give you my heart, I will heal your land. So the first step in making a move to the country is to ask God to bless us. And to ask Him to bless us is by coming to Him in these ways. To humble ourselves, to pray, to get close to Him, and turn from worldly ways and practices as revealed from the Bible and the Spirit of prophecy. Then God says, through my Son, I will hear from heaven. I will forgive your sin and will heal your land. You see, when we go to the country and we begin to plant, we think it's just automatic. But it calls for, before we plant, a revival in our hearts so that God can bless our garden and heal our land to be able to feed in the time of no buy, no sell, to be able to feed our family and all those who are gathered around us. And we can't do it without God's help. That's why it says that without God's help, we can do nothing. In Psalms 37:3, trust in the Lord and do good. So shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. There's a number of different Bible verses here that are really important, but here it says, trust in the Lord and do what's right, so that thou shalt dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Before you start these experiences in the country, you must have this connection with God, or it's not going to work. You may know how to build a root cellar, fall a tree, skin a tree, build a log cabin, operate a treadle sewing machine, all kinds of things that make life easier in a totally off-grid system. But unless you have that experience with God, it's not going to work. Moving on to some warnings from the Spirit of Prophecy in connection with country living, connection with staying in the cities, and so forth. I want to share this one with you. Last Day Events, page 111. The end is near. And notice this, every city is to be turned upside down every way. That's an inspired statement. The end is near, and every city is to be turned upside down in every way. There will be confusion in every city. How many cities? Every city. Everything that can be shaken is to be shaken, and we do not know what will come next. The judgments will be according to the wickedness of the people and the light of truth that they have had. Oh, that God's people had a sense of the impending destructions of thousands of cities, now almost given to idolatry. The time is near when large cities will be swept away, and all should be warned of these coming. I pray, end of quote, that we will understand this statement and that you'll get the book Last Day Events and read this page 111, that judgments are coming to the cities, and it says every one. Then we know earlier in our series here, we read the statement that ere long there will be such strife and confusion in the cities that those who want to leave will not be able. So there is a deadline to all of this. And I pray that we will recognize that deadline, give it a sense of urgency, getting right with God and right with each other, and make that a nucleus of the urgency and the driven force to get ready for the Lord's return. It's important that we take this time to be ready for all the things, because what's more important is what we do with today out here, rather than wait and say the Lord will take care of us, because no buy, no sell is coming up, and it says we need to be in a country where we can raise our own provisions. Some promises about that God will help us when we're out in the country, and one of them is that it'll be tenfold easier to develop character. Let me read that to you from Fundamentals of Christian Education, page 326. Send the children to schools located in the city, where every phase of temptation is waiting to attract and demoralize them. And the work of character building is tenfold harder for both parents and children. Think of it, tenfold harder if you stay in the cities, educate your children in the cities. The work of character building is tenfold harder. Would you like to have a tenfold advantage? Then having that tenfold advantage means, under the guidance of God, that He will help us find such homes outside the cities. Under His guidance, make a move, and we can have a tenfold advantage in character building. 12 MR, page 30. He wants us to live where we can have elbow room. His people are not to crowd into the cities. He wants them to take their families out of the cities. Now note this, that they may better prepare for eternal life. We can better prepare for eternal life if we conduct our household lifestyle in the country, and to move back into the cities and witness, helping others to get ready. So we have a tenfold advantage, and we can better prepare for eternal life. Volume 6 of the Testimonies, page 178. If the land is cultivated, it will, with the blessing of God, supply our necessities. 6T 178. If the land is cultivated, it will, with the blessing of God, supply our necessities. Now notice, it says, with the blessing of God. And in order to get the blessing of God, we must humble ourselves, pray, seek His face, and leave the world behind. Then we may expect the blessing of God on our work, on our families, because then if the land is cultivated, we have the blessing of God by seeking His face and getting close to Him. It will supply our necessities. Now, necessities may change. I tell this with rather humor attached to it, that you can search through the seed catalogs and you won't find any plants that you can buy or seeds that you can buy, that you can plant, that you can raise Twinkies. So our style, our diet will change as a result as we seek God and we leave the world behind. Could our brethren remember that God can bless? There it is, the blessing of God again. So we're back to humbling, we're back to praying, we're back to seeking His face, we're about to ask for forgiveness, we're about to make it right with each other. God can bless 20 acres and make them as productive as 100. That's 5 to 1. That's a huge blessing from God. What about our stuff? You know, we have stuff in our garage we go and look at, or our barn. We go and look at once every 5 years is absolutely essential. But here it says, we are about to move to a better country, even a heavenly. Then let us not be dwellers upon the earth, but getting things in compact a compass as possible. I guess it's time to pare down, cut back the stuff. It seems like that stuff you have stored is stuff multiplies, but we can help to do that. And in seeking unity, one gem, precious gem, because many of these things may create disunity and so forth. But God has given us a little secret formula that we can understand. As long as we hold to our own ideas and opinions with determined persistency, we cannot have the unity for which Christ prayed. So as we work together, we have different ideas and opinions. Let's be open, be willing to lay them down, if necessary, in behalf of unity. I see the necessity of the people of God moving out of the cities into retired country places where they may cultivate the land and raise their own produce. Thus they may bring their children up in simple, healthful lives. I see the necessity of making haste to get all things ready for the crisis. Gain that experience, as 2 Chronicles 7:14 says with Jesus. Take that experience, ask the Lord to bless you in your endeavors, and He will operate on the plan of multiplication. We can better prepare for eternal life, and we have a tenfold advantage in character building, getting ready for the Lord's return by moving to the country. May God bless each of you, is my prayer.